Disincarnated, we'd like to give everybody a fraternal embrace and thank you for being here with us in body or in spirit. Today is Sunday, March 31st, and we're saying goodbye to March and hello to April. April showers bring May flowers. And for those of you that do know, and those of you that do not know, Becerra de Meneses is a nonprofit organization. We're 501c3, which means that we are a nonprofit with IRS. We function strictly through volunteers and donations, and nobody here receives any type of remuneration other than blessings from above. Our mission is to study Spiritism and promote the practice of spiritual and material charity. Should you want additional information, you're welcome to call our number 305-477-4148. You can log into www.spiritist.com, our website, or send an email to info@spiritist.com. We do ask that you silence your phones or turn them off, whatever is your preference, because we do transmit live on YouTube. Should you want to hear lectures that have already been saved, you can go to www.youtube.com/Becerra Miami, and you will have the Gospels that were transmitted live at 10 a.m. in English and 11:30 either in Spanish, Portuguese, or Portuñol. And today, we're going to start this beautiful morning with our dear Chico Javier from the book Our Daily Bread. And he speaks to us through the Spirit of Emmanuel, chapter 127, the Law of Return. And those who have done good will go to the resurrection of life, and those who have done evil to the resurrection of condemnation. And this is Jesus speaking to us through John in chapter 5, verse 29. In few passages of the gospel is the law of reincarnation implied as clearly as in this one, where the master's teaching refers to the resurrection or condemnation. How would theologians, interested in the existence of a burning and eternal hell, understand these words? Individuals dedicated to the good will find the fountains of life as they bathe in the waters of corporeal death. Their accomplishments of the future follow their upward path in direct correspondence with the persevering efforts they exerted while on the path of sanctifying spirituality, whereas those who have taken pleasure in evil annul their own possibilities of resurrection in the light. They must repeat their expiatory course. It is the return to the lesson or to the remedy. There is no other alternative. The law of return, therefore, is amply contained in Jesus' synthesis. Resurrection means rebirth. The meaning of renewal cannot be harmonized with the theory of eternal punishment. In final and absolute verdicts, there is no saving recourse. According to what the Master is saying here, however, we can see that divine providence is much richer and magnanimous than one might think. There will be a resurrection for all, but with the difference that the righteous will have it in a new life, and the evil in a new condemnation as a consequence of their own wrongdoing. For reflection about today's reading. In today's reading, Emmanuel explains how the law of reincarnation is clearly implied in this passage from Jesus, and how individuals that dedicate themselves to the good will find the fountain of life at the end of their material life, because their good deeds will guide them in an upward path in direct correspondence with their efforts. Those taking pleasure in evil will nullify their possibilities of resurrection in the light. Resurrection means rebirth, cause the meaning of renewal is not compatible with the theory of eternal punishment. There will be resurrection for all, but the righteous will have it in a new life, while the evil in a new condemnation, as a result of their own wrongdoing. So let's take a deep breath and let us thank our divine master and teacher, Jesus Christ, for those words. We thank our Father, supreme intelligence, first cause of all things, our dear Dr. Becerra de Menezes, our spiritual guides and our mentors, and all those that are joining us here today, who prepared everything for us and who lovingly worked 24/7, 365 days. Our mentors and protectors who guide us and inspire us and motivate us to take that right road and to give all the best that we can, loving God above all things and our neighbor as ourselves. We would like to ask for all those that are on their way here, the teachers especially, and the parents that are bringing their children to Sunday school. Secondly, we'd like to pray that our dear Luiz Lima receives all the blessings from the divine so that he can portray this message in its truest form, as he always does. And we also send special prayers to our dear Isabel. And we ask, dear Lord, that you remain with us and you permit us to stay with you through Jesus' teachings, through his gospel, through his example, and through his love. And all these things, dear Lord, we do ask in Jesus' name. Amen. Luiz Lima comes from far. He comes with a lot of love, and it's a great blessing for us to have him here. He's going to speak to us on chapter 12, the gospel.
All right, good morning, everyone. Good morning. While we get ready here. So chapter 12 is about the enemies. That's not something easy to talk about, but we need to talk about it. It's definitely something that we have trouble with. And Jesus teaches a few things about it, actually a lot of things, but we kind of don't get to the bottom of the message. That's what we're going to try to do today, take it to the next level. Okay, so I'm going to start in 1957 when we had delivered to us one of the greatest discourses or speeches in history by this man, Martin Luther King. And he had a speech that he named Loving Your Enemies. And it's based on the original message that Jesus brings us on the Gospels. And it's a long discourse. He goes through several things. Towards the end, he will mention something very interesting. I'm going to just read it to you. He will say, now, there's a final reason why I think Jesus says, love your enemies. It is this: the love has within it a redemptive power. And there is a power there that eventually transforms individuals. That's why Jesus says, love your enemies, because if you hate your enemies, you have no way to redeem and to transform your enemies. But if you love your enemies, you will discover that at the very root of love is the power of redemption. You just keep loving them and keep loving them, and though they are mistreating you. Here's the person who is a neighbor, and this person is doing something wrong to you and all of that. Just keep being friendly to that person. Keep loving them. Don't do anything to embarrass them. Just keep loving them, and they can't stand it for too long. They react in many ways in the beginning. They react with bitterness because they're mad because you love them like that. They react with guilt feelings, and sometimes they'll hate you a little more at the transition period, but just keep loving them. And by the power of your love, they will break down under the load. That's love, you see. It's redemptive. And this is why Jesus says love. There's something about love that builds up and is creative. There's something about hate that tears down and is destructive. So love your enemies. It's a powerful message. It's on top of what Jesus is bringing us originally. Love your enemies. And this is what Jesus says. You have heard that what was said, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. That was from the previous messages. But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. And he doesn't really explain in words a whole lot. He's just doing it in front of all of us. He does this live. Instead of talking and doing speeches on it all the time and talking, he just does it. And for some of us, it was very difficult to comprehend still today. We look at our enemies today as, those who we don't want to get close, we don't want to look at them. We don't really align with them. That's how we see it today, but that's not what it should be. There's a lot more in here, and that's what we want to explore today. So this is the first question. Do we know how to love? Because he's saying, how do you reconcile love and enemies in the same phrase? That's the bottom of it. That's how we want to get to the bottom of this thing. So we need to understand the word love, explore a little bit, understand the word enemies, explore a little bit, and then put them together on the same sentence and see if it makes sense. If it makes sense, then we're on the right track. Okay? Do we know how to love? That's the first question. Well, we love based on empowering. We want to win when we love. There's a winning feeling behind it. It's based on fulfillment of our personal own interest. It shouldn't be like that. What he's saying is something different. It's surrender. Instead of us empowering, it's the other way around, surrendering. Let love conquer. So it would be this love that we do for others. Here's a typical example in our current society. Let's say, for example, that it's just an example, okay? Somebody comes to me, some woman comes to me and says, I really love you and so and so and so. And then that doesn't happen. But imagine if I reply this way. Listen, I see you're totally and completely in love with me. I don't love you very much, but I'm going to marry you to make you happy because you love me that much. We do this. We don't, right? We don't do this because we're not down here, we're up there. I fulfill my interests before that person's, or in biblical terms, my neighbors. So we don't know how to love exactly the way he's saying. So when we do not understand the word in its sense, the phrase lost the meaning. Love your enemy starts to lose the meaning. Okay, love in those days, just like today, has several meanings. For example, if I tell somebody that I'm deeply feeling something for this person, say I love you, that's one thing. And I can also say I love chocolate. And it's not the same love. It's completely different. So the word is the same, but the meaning is different. At Jesus' time, the word love had 4 different meanings. Okay, one of them, first of all, is what we call eros. That's the word erotic comes from. It's romantic, the desire and so and so and so. There's a second meaning, which is from the Greek philos, which is this fraternal love. Brothers and sisters. It's a two-way love. Okay, but it's like brothers and sisters. There's a third meaning, stange. Stange is this familiar, affectionate love, not necessarily blood family. Sometimes we have in the family people who are, for example, adopted, or somebody that is so close, so close, so close that we consider family. It's that kind of love. And finally, there's what he's trying to tell us, the agape. Agape is the unconditional love. Above all, no questions asked, if you use modern language. And that's the one we kind of have a hard time understanding. When we do this, we detach from anything else. That's what we call the non-imprisoning love. We detach, we just rise above. Everything is good when we are at that level, unconditional love. And then we do not expect anything in return. It's a one-way love without the interest in what comes back from it. So that goes against the first thing that we saw, which is loving to fulfill my interest. To fulfill my interest is expectation of return. That shouldn't happen here. What he's saying is this love here. And how do we know unconditional love? That's the first thing. Unconditional love, we usually talk about it at the very conceptual level, very and not practical level. So we can say, yeah, it's God's love, it's Jesus' love for all. It's very conceptual. Now, how about me, myself, standing here on this ground right now on earth? Do I know unconditional love? We do. We do. Just imagine that you have a 2 or 3 year old kid, and they do the fist like this. They come to you and they hit you right here on the leg and say, I hate you. For whatever reason, doesn't matter. I hate you. What do? You hate back? No. You take that kid, hug him, bring him over to your chest, and you stay like that for 3 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it's at the time. During those minutes, there is no bad neighbor, no bill, no workload, no stress, no attacks, no nothing, no stealing, no nothing. Everything is in perfect place. So we do know unconditional love. We do know, but we can't sustain. We can't sustain. We sustain for 2 minutes, and then maybe 3 months later, another 2 minutes, and maybe another couple of months, 5 minutes. It's completely fragmented. It's not that we don't know, but when we live it for those minutes, oh yeah, we raise above. We are above everything else. Nothing else matters. So it's not a matter that we don't know. We do, but we don't know how to deal with that very well. So again, do we know how to love? Yes and no, right? We can't sustain. So here's a thought. If we have enemies, then we don't know how to love. Because I'm not above all things. The enemy is still above it. So here's love, and here's the enemy. Unconditional love puts it above everything else. So the enemies, supposedly enemies, are down below here. So we have trouble with this. We have trouble with the enemies because we have trouble bringing this love from within and making it happen. And that's what we want to explore a little bit. Love is not measured by the enjoyment, it's measured by the sacrifice. Loving measured by enjoyment means I'm fulfilling my own interest. I enjoy, oh, this is good. That's fulfillment of my interest. That goes against the first thing, frontly against the first thing. Love is measured by the sacrifice. Okay? And that's something we need to learn. And we don't learn because we're not looking at the enemy as we should. We're going to discuss this here a little bit. That's what we want to go to next level. So who are these enemies? We got questions. Who are they? Where are they? Why should I love them? And how? If I decide to, how do I do this thing? So there's a million questions. So let's start with them. Who are them? Who are these enemies? Well, sometimes it's so many that we can't keep track of them. It's too many. It's a long list. And the list doesn't stop. It seems like as we go along, we acquire more of those, to a point that I decided to make a form, enemy registration form, where I'm gonna catalog my enemies, because there are too many. That's the only way I'm gonna keep track of. I'm gonna put like a database together of my enemies. So here's some examples. For example, Joe in 1970, that's a lot of time ago, that's 50 years or so, in the parking lot of our school, he brought a brand new car, nice and shiny. And I didn't like him. From that day, he became my enemy. On that day, I filled the form. On that day, I filled the form. And he's been approved. So he's officially my enemy. As of 1970, still today. Still today. Because I didn't let it go. Okay? Here's another one, Mary, 1983, way in the past. At the workplace, she fired me. And officially, I made her my enemy on that day in 1983. Here's another one, James. Oh, look at him. So in 1975, in our neighborhood, he stole my girlfriend. And he officially entered the farm in 1975. And it's still running my head, still running my system. The thing is still in my system. I still live it. When somebody talks about the year, oh, remember we used to live together. Oh, I'm still living it. You see how it bothers. It's still a living thing within. Here's Susie, 1998. In our office where we used to work, she got promoted. And I thought I was supposed to. So officially on that day, she became my enemy. She doesn't even know, but she is. And this is Mario. In a past life, he shot me to death in the farm we used to work. So in my soul, right, not in my brain, but in my soul, he's a dead enemy. He's my enemy. Okay? He's Nick. And this started in 2005, still goes on. He works in the office, but he's very slow typing, and I can't deal with that. I can't deal with that. He's like, oh my God, take this guy out of here, put somebody else in place. I can't deal with that. And here's another one, Mr. Fox. From the year 2000 until today, he's the cashier at the supermarket. Very slow, very calm. And I never go through his line because it's too slow. I can't deal with that. He's awful. He should be fired. They should hire somebody else, much faster. So all of these things, all of these people were tagged enemies. By who? By me. Okay? Some of these, if not all, they don't even know. They are my enemies. When I look at the list, this is exactly the same list. Instead of form, it's just like a spreadsheet, but it's exactly the same people, okay, with the same information. Obviously, there's some feelings, some emotions that go through every time I recall these things. And here what they are. So what is my problem with James that stole my girlfriend? There's resentment, and so and so and so. And the guy who brought the brand new car, I couldn't have the car, so envy is eating me up. So these things here, these underlying sentiments and feelings and emotions, if you will, they are destroying me. So now we look at the list and we start, hold on, let's analyze this list a little bit. Let's take a look at this thing in a different way. So here I am, the greatest of all, okay, here I am. Here they are, okay? And the question is, what is the direction of these feelings? Is it from me to them or from them to me? It's from me to them. These people don't even know, okay? So this is the direction. So the source is on the left side here. That is the source. So I am the source. I am the source of these things. I am the creator of all these things. I am the one who put the forms together, who, lived this thing through time. I am the one. They don't know anything. So now we look at this list again, and we have to make some adjustments to the list. This is exactly the same list that we put before. On the first column, where you see the word enemy, that's not what it is. They are not enemies. The enemies are other things. So introducing these 9 enemies here, only 9 of them, we got 1 million. These are the enemies. These are the things that got us stuck and we can't pass them. These are the things that are going against ourselves. So when you look at this, okay, these are the enemies. So what are they? What are they in this new perspective? That's very important because that's what we don't understand. That's why love and enemies, if we don't understand this, love and enemies on the same phrase don't make any sense. We can't reconcile, but we will reconcile. What are these things? What are them? They are the battlefield. They are the places that I go to fight the enemy. What is a battlefield? is where you go to defeat the enemy, right? So the enemy is envy, okay? Envy, for example. What do I have to do? I have to go to a battlefield where I can face envy, face to face like that, and defeat it. Who is my battle? Where is my battlefield? Is the guy who made me envy. Remember the guy who brought the car? That's him. So how do I defeat that? I go after him, not to kill him or anything like this, with my open heart. I go to him. I had a personal, very interesting story a few years ago. I had a situation where somebody came to me and said, "You did this and this, and I hate it, and I don't like it." And we were kind of friends, and we kind of broke. And then he was really bothering me, and that was maybe 10 years ago, even more, really bothering me. And I said, one day I woke up and I said, I don't want to live with this thing. He might not even know that I hate him. I don't want to live this thing. So, and because of the circumstances, him and I were going to more or less the same places at times. We would go to same places here and there. So I would, avoid going to certain places because I knew he was going to be there. One day I woke up and I said, that's it. Yesterday was the last day. So I look at his schedule, right? Because I had access to it. And I said, okay, where is he going to be? He's going to be on that place on that day. So I went to that place on that day, not to criticize, you see, to face the enemy, not to bring the enemy, to face the enemy. So he was there, and all I did was look from a distance and leave. First day. Second day, we go. That's it. Second day, just a sign. Third day, we go, hey, how are you, sir? Fourth day, oh man, I haven't seen you in a while. Hug. And that was it. It took me 4 visits to the battlefield to clear off with that enemy. We're great friends today. Great friends today. What are these people doing in my life? They are my living opportunity to defeat the enemy, not defeat them. You don't go to the battlefield to defeat the battlefield. Makes no sense. You go to defeat the enemy who is also on the battlefield. So when I go to the battlefield, I take 2 things with me. I take me and I take the enemy, because the enemy is within. See, I don't take me and wait for the enemy to come in. No, I'm carrying the cloud. I'm carrying the enemy within. So when I go to the battlefield, I have the opportunity for that to come up, and then I'm going to defeat this enemy. The enemy is not him, her. It's not the boss. It's not this. The enemy is within. They are the battlefields. They are our opportunity to defeat the enemy, one at a time, little by little. So if we were to make a movie out of this, we would say the enemies, coming soon to a battlefield near you. Because this is what we want. I want to go to the movie now. Reconcile with your enemies before it's too late. I want to do it now. Where's the next, where's the closest movie theater? Because I want to start now. I don't know if it's clear to you what these people are. They're not the enemies. They are the battlefield. The battlefield could be people, but it could also be other things. Could be people, meaning I go to approach these people to fight the enemy within. But it could also be in our dreams. We dream and we go around out there in the spirit world, and we have the opportunity to meet with the battlefield to fight the enemy. So dreams are also a possibility. Here's another one: thoughts, just thoughts, just thinking that, oh, the guy stole my girlfriend in 1975. No. Let's go to the battlefield. Let's bring the enemy within with us and face it, be there face to face, and win the battle. In order for me to win the battle and defeat the enemy, I need the battlefield. I need them. We have spirits, we have resources, okay, that work with us on our virtues. Those are our guides, our mentors, our, high evolved spirits who are with us. But I also have resources so I can deal with my vices. These resources are battlefields that I go to. So, do they have a meaning in my life? Oh, yeah. The same way these guys here have a meaning in my life. They help me deal with the virtues, they help to me deal with the vices. You see, it's how we see the enemy. It's how you see the enemy. Paul of Tarsus, from Saul to Paul. Right? When he was Saul of Tarsus, who was his enemy? It was just, it was within, right? Selfishness, pride, and so and so and so. And who was his battlefield? The Christians. Those are the ones he tagged as enemies. Those guys are my enemies. I'm going to kill them all. They are not the enemies. They are the battlefield. He only won over the enemy when he went to the battlefield in the middle of them, in the most important 12, and said, I want to be here. I don't want to leave you. I want to be here all the time. And that's how he defeats the enemy. You see, he goes to the battleground. We have to go to the battleground to defeat the enemy. Now, two things. Why should I then love my enemies? Let's just quickly revise. And how? Once I decide that I'm going to do it, how I do it, right? So, first of all, why? Practicing love. Because love has to be above all, Remember? If the enemy is here, I have to practice to get better at it, to pass over this. If the enemy is above love, it will always defeat me. I have to be above it, so I win over the enemy, okay? It's an opportunity for growth, and we can't miss any opportunities. We have to take all the opportunities. Battlefields are opportunities for me to go there and deal with the situation. And the other face, the other cheek, what is that? That is when somebody brings hate, I show love. When I go to the battlefield to deal with him or her, let's say him, right? What do I take? The hate that I have for him or the love that's going to win over? I have to be open for love. Of course, I'm going to take the hate because it's within. But when I get to the battlefield and here I am talking to him, and instead of go and trying to be aggressive, no, let love win. That's the other phase. He brought this within out of me. He brought this out of me on a particular situation. I'm going to bring something else this time and present it. And that something else is going to win over. That's what the other phase is. It's up to us to do or not. This is free will. They show us that we have not yet mastered ourselves on things, on emotions, on feelings. For example, if I still have envy, if I'm still dishonest, if I'm still intolerant, I have not yet mastered on these things. They are the opportunity for me to do that. Okay? Now, self-esteem, that's important because it goes both ways. Somebody may be very aggressive to me, for example, because they have low self-esteem. And that on that day, that aggressiveness made me put this person on the list. So now he's officially my enemy. When I decide to turn things around, okay, and I go to the battlefield, I'm not helping only myself, but I'm helping this person to get better at self-esteem. As I battle my enemy, he's going to perceive that I'm changing, I'm producing a different type of energy, I'm producing something different, and his self-esteem is going to raise as well. So I'm doing two things at a time. Okay? And make to love to make lovable. Love somebody to make that lovable. That includes myself. I have the opportunity to do this. Again, it's free will. We might not do any of this because we're still stuck in the past. We're still stuck on the form. Now, how do I love these people? I know I have to go to the battleground, but it's not easy. So when I go, I have to open my heart. This is a very interesting passage from one of the Einstein writings. Brilliant mind. No problem can be solved from the same level of consciousness that created it. So I created a problem because of, say, envy. When I go to the battlefield, I have to be with a different conscious level. If I'm still meeting the battlefield to show my envy, I'm still stuck. I'm still on the same level. I can't do that because you wouldn't not allow myself to deal with the problem. I'm just increasing the problem instead of dealing with that. And Allan Kardec in the Gospel According to Spiritism tells us, how do we do this thing? First of all, we got to change thoughts. We can't change our dreams, but we can go to sleep with a better state of mind by praying, by, doing the good things, especially right before going to bed, because the dreams and the thoughts are battlefields too. The people that we tag as enemies, they are battlefields. I have to change my attitudes and my feelings towards them. I can't go there to fix envy with envy. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Self-evaluation. So we need to, from time to time, do this. We need to reread the forms. We need to go back to our forms. First of all, we need to write our forms again so we can look at them today and say, wow, this is 30 years. I never forgot this thing. Wow, 50 years. I never forgot this thing. That's going to help us. Self-evaluation. Let's go back to the forms. Let's see what was done wrong, what happened in a way that it shouldn't happen for whatever reason. The reason right now is not really important. We start by rewriting all these forms that we lost in the past. Okay. Again, self-evaluation, right? Law, cause, and effect. This is a passage by Spirit Emmanuel. Very interesting. Those who hurt others definitely don't know what they're doing, since they ignore the responsibilities that it carries within the law of cause and effect. So every time I take one of these attitudes and I create a problem, I open a new avenue within the law of action and reaction. So I know something's coming back, and I'm going to have to deal with that. So the ones that were done. But how about avoiding more of those? That's easier for us today because, especially here in the Spiritist Center, we have so much information. We try to practice that a lot. So, going back to the forms and see how many times we did the same thing, it's going to help us to avoid creating more of these things. And if you think about this, if you look at the list, we had one person, one enemy for each feeling. But one person on that list could be responsible for, could be tagged enemy more than one time. Oh, this guy did this to me, goes as an enemy. But he also did something else, goes as enemy again. But he also, so 3 times, 4 times, to a point that we can rank. We can rank. This is my biggest enemy because it has more entry forms. Then this is second, third, fourth. That's absurd. It's absurd. That's how many times I'm doing things wrong myself. Not them. They might not even know. We hold things against people for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. They don't even know. It's only us. It's us against us. No, it's not right. It's not good for us. It doesn't help us anything. Okay, a few things for us to reflect upon. The meaning of the enemies. So hopefully I was able to, tell you what I think it is. They are the battlefields. They are my greatest opportunity to deal with things that are not right. Okay, they are going against me. They're friends too. They're just friends to be. Potentially they are friends, because when I go to the enemy, right? When I go to the battlefield and I win over the enemy, and envy is gone, intolerance is gone, impatience is gone, I can thank him. Oh, thank you for the opportunity to let me deal with this. So they will be friends one day. They are friends in potential, friends to be. Okay, they are just right now. They are in a different pattern. From my perspective, I don't see them as friends to be. I see them as mortal enemies, if you will. Okay. Now this is an interesting thing. De-umbralize. Okay, umbral is on the newest translations from the Spiritist books is what we used to call in the past dark zones, lower zones in the older translations. So de-umbralizing means take this umbral, these dark zones, out of ourselves, throw it out. Like if we could just put our hands on it, yank it, and say out. That's the concept behind the de-umbralizing. So I wrote down here, love your enemies means to de-umbralize, means to take these lower energies, those dark zones out of ourselves. And what is these lower zones and these dark zones? What are they composed of? Envy, pride, selfishness, those are the enemies. The collection of enemies form the internal umbral. De-umbralize means get this thing out. Okay. Locating the enemy. How do I find the enemy? Look at this African proverb. When there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you. That's smart. That's smart. That's something to take to the pillow tonight. Because I see things with the internal eyes. If the internal eyes is, oh, this guy did this, that's how I'm going to see him always, or her always. So as we work on these and it changes inside, automatically changes the way I see the things outside. So beautiful, beautiful, profound, deep African proverb. When there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you. How do I value my enemies? Can I put a value to these guys, like in numbers? I mean, imagine if we would have a scale of 0% to 100%, 0 to 100, and we would put a number to, if you're a real bad enemy, you're 100%. If you're more or less of an enemy, 10%. You know, very commonly, there is no 10%. Everything is 100%. It's digital. It's either or. That's how we see things. Why is that? Either you're not my enemy or you are. Why is that? Because I'm looking through the internal eyes, and that is present or it's not. If it's present, you're 100%. If it's not, you're not. That's why there's nothing in between. Because I either carry the cloud, the dark cloud, or I don't, for that particular sentiment, for that particular feeling. So these guys are here, again, to help us work with our vices. The same way we have resources to help us work with our virtues. They are not the same. The people helping us here are, the spirits helping us here is one group. These are a different group. But they're helping. They are here to do their work. Okay? So, loving your enemy. So the enemy is within. So I'm going to have to love something that is within. In Jesus' words, that's it. That is, love yourself. See, not love the hate, not love the envy, not love the intolerance. You don't love the feeling. You love what's within. That's within. Okay, so first I'm going to love. When I love and intolerance is within. Love and unconditional love is above it. So intolerance dissolves. When I love and I am impatient, impatience dissolves. And each one of those things dissolve. So we go back to the African proverb. When everything is dissolved, there's nothing out there that can hurt me. That's why they come together. Love your enemies and love yourself. They are basically the same because I'm my enemy. The enemy within. And in order for us to do this, in order for us to start, win over uh, all these feelings, I have to go to the battleground. I have to see these people. I have to make a commitment. That person, I can't deal with that because one day she did this to me, he did this to me. It doesn't matter how many days, how many years, I'm going to go there. And on the first day, I'm just going to be physically present on the same classroom, party, work environment, whatever. And I'm going to look at the person, not with the eyes that created the problem, but with the eyes of love. It could be something, I'll tell you, you worked for me. It could be something as simple as this. Let's say the problem is, I don't know, envy, for example, the guy who bought the car, okay? So I'm gonna go there, but I'm not gonna, if I go there and I look at him and say, that's the guy who brought the car. That's not it. It could be something as simple as this. Oh, he's in the party. Oh, yeah, he's eating some sandwich. Well, yes, of course, as a human being, his body needs sandwiches. Okay. You see, it means nothing. But it doesn't mean the bad thing. That's a start. That's a start. Yeah, well, of course, he's a body. He needs water. He's drinking water. He's eating a sandwich. Okay, all right. And then I leave. He's not going to see me today. It's the first time. Second time, I want him to see me, and I'm going to make a slight very shy sign. And he looks at it. And that's enough. And I can leave the party. That's enough. On the third day, it's going to be more intense. Intense from my perspective. You might not even know. Intense from my perspective. When I go and get physical contact with him, it can be a tap right here. Hey, how's it going? And leave. That's it. Good. You see, I can't do this by taking the envy with me like this. Hey, how's it going? You stole my girlfriend. No. Hey, how's it going, man? I see you having fun. That's it. And I leave. On the fourth day, it's going to be more like a kind of a hug. You see, we de-umbrelize. He's not going to de-umbrelize for me. It's me. I'm the one de-umbrelizing. It's all on me. It's a choice. I might not never decide to do this thing. So there's a logic to all of this. That's the divine logic. First, I identify my enemies. How do I identify my enemies? By composing my list. Forget about the people's names. Those are not the enemies, okay? Once I have that, then I see, okay, so these things are all within. They are here. They are inside. They don't know about it. They don't know I'm intolerant towards them. I'm impatient. They don't know. It's me. Then I'm going to offer myself the other face. Myself, not them. Myself. Okay? Then with the other face, I'm going to bring that antagonizing sentiment to the original one and bring it higher up by bringing love with it. So love overcomes and wins over whatever I'm dealing with. And then when I do one by one, I start dissolving these things. Then I can love myself as a whole more intensely. See, when I love myself, everything is good. Everything is good. Everybody's good. That's to love everyone that Jesus says. And then there are no enemies left. Because if I love everyone, that's it. Now, this process will not happen in a lifetime. But I can take one of the forms, just one, and work on it on this life. Maybe not the most difficult. We got to be reasonable, right? The one that is really gets me out of the tracks, okay, we'll do that later. Let's start with an easier one. Let's start with something that I feel I can deal with without, creating even more of a problem. And that's what we do. And this is going to happen. This takes place. It will happen. Okay. And then we go to the battle place, fight and win. You see, the enemy on the battleground, if we do it right, the enemy is not going to fight back. And then I have to go to the battleground several times. One day, what happens in a battle, a real battle, okay, a real battle, if you go to the battlefield and the enemy doesn't show up, the soldiers don't show up, I win, right? I win. He didn't show up, I win. One day, the red guy is not going to show up. That day I won. That's what I need to do. Go to the battleground as many times as needed until the enemy doesn't show up anymore. Then I'm good. Then I'm clear. Then I have no enemies left. Okay? All right. Thank you very much. Let's do our prayer. Let's do our final prayer, thanking our master and guide, Jesus, for the opportunity to be here together today on this beautiful Sunday, dealing with our feelings and sentiments, dealing with the presence of what we call enemies in our lives. Thank you, Jesus, so much for the messages on how to deal with them, on how to use love as the greatest tool of all to defeat all the enemies within. Thank you for all these opportunities. Thank you for the battlegrounds, for the people who help us deal with our vices in our lives, as much as the ones who help us deal with our virtues in our lives, our mentors, our spirit guides. Thank you, Jesus, once again for all of these opportunities. Please stay with us today and always guiding us, always giving us the right direction. Thank you, and so be it.